To the Real Autism Podcast. Real as in relevant, effective, actionable living strategies and solutions for a better quality of life. Join your host, Alicia Gaucher Page, for some real conversations. Sponsored by J. Cole Autism Coaching.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Real Autism Podcast, where we talk about relevant, effective, actionable living strategies and solutions. And I'm excited to welcome my guest this evening, Mr. Trey Winfrey. How you doing, Trey?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So tell us, what do we need to know about Trey? Tell us about you.
All right. So I'm a native Texan. I've been here in Georgia for about 7 years now. I'm really professionally for the last 10 years, I've been a private chef, but I also am an amateur bodybuilder. I've been lifting and taking care of myself as well as coaching and other people for also like the last probably 8 years. Professionally, I'm just now transitioning into it full time. So it's an exciting time and I'm happy to have an opportunity to instead of be talking about food, share some knowledge about helping people be healthy and just feel better throughout life.
That's awesome. So even though we're not going to talk about food, we're going to talk about some other things. I'm just curious, what made you want to be a chef? Like, what made you choose that walk of life?
From childhood, I've always loved cooking. I was the one Granny was yelling at because I was in the pots. So that was me just in the kitchen asking questions all the time. I enjoyed eating, of course. So I had to learn how to make some stuff so I could eat without having to ask all the time. And then after
So
8 years in the Air Force, I went to culinary school.
Awesome. Okay, so Air Force man. Okay, awesome. So I know you talked about being an amateur bodybuilder. So was there a connection in you loving food, being a chef, being a bodybuilder? So how did you get to that?
Well, loving cooking, even before going to school, I managed to put on a little weight. And
Just a little bit.
enough to feel uncomfortable.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
I wasn't really looking to like achieve a certain type of body goal. I just didn't like what I was looking at in the mirror anymore when I got out the shower. So I was like, I'll do something about this. So I just started going to the gym and just casually working out just to, just I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't doing no crazy stuff trying to be like six pack or nothing. But after consistently working out for a little while, I looked in the mirror and I saw a muscle. And that's where everything changed. I was like, yeah, I need more of them.
You just start digging a little bit deeper to find
And
them, right?
it just went crazy from there because now I'm researching like, okay, now how did I do this? Because I was just working out. I think the good thing about it was I always really cooked my own food. So I think that helped a lot because, where a lot of people struggle is the food part. But I kind of already had half the battle. Now I wasn't paying attention to different calories and different things like I do now. But just the simple fact that I was eating real food, I think that helped a lot. And it made it a lot easier for me to actually achieve a goal that I didn't even realize I was hitting. You know what I mean?
Right. So I know like the vitamins and the supplement part is a big part of what you do. So
Huge.
how did your culinary creativity help incorporate those essential vitamins and supplements into your daily meals for you specifically? And not only that, but if you're dealing with someone who's on the spectrum with autism, what suggestions do you have around helping to incorporate vitamins and supplements in daily meals?
Okay, so the easiest way for me is I'm one of those people who if it needs to be done, I kind of just do it and try my best not to think about it, especially if it's something that's like I'm not having fun doing. When it comes to my nutrition and supplementation though, I mean it's not fun or not fun, it's just something you need to do, you know what I mean? But some people really have a mental block on it. And I say just do it. It's like most supplements is like a tablet or a powder that you can mix in a drink. Just do it. And when it comes to the actual cuisine and the nutrition is just understanding the how nutrient dense the foods you're eating are, and then just properly portioning them to yourself. A lot of people, when they're feeding someone else, they feed them an amount that they would eat or an amount that they think they should eat, not really considering how much does this person really need of this versus this. My plate is going to have a lot more meat versus a child's plate or a lady's plate. You know what I'm saying? But the lady's plate may have a lot more vegetables than mine. She weighs a lot less. She doesn't need as much meat as mine. So whenever you catch yourself looking at a plate of someone with much more mass than you know, look at those questions, because a lot of times it's not necessarily the nutrients that people aren't getting. A lot of times it's just the amounts that people are getting. And when we think about what we're consuming, sometimes what we're consuming is doing more damage than what we're not consuming. You know what I mean? So
Um,
I believe that paying attention to what you're eating and calling food is a little more important than the actual supplementation, because supplementation just means in addition to. So you take it in addition to properly feeding yourself. You see what I
so
mean?
so that meal with the nutrients in it, that's kind of like your baseline is what I'm picking up. Like that's the core.
Right.
So
Understanding the foods that are the most nutrient dense. You know, it's one thing that I don't really talk about much, but I do think everybody should consider it and do some research on it, is understanding how nutrient dense meat really is. You know what I mean? There's a lot of bad things that people say about meat, and there's a lot of good arguments that people have about meat. But one thing that I wish everybody would actually research and understand is that, you know, when you're looking at meat, it's very nutrient dense. You know what I mean? So understanding how much you need is very important. You know what I mean? A lot of people go overboard and a lot of people don't do enough. And then we come up with our own, you know, theories and what we want to think about it. But I tell people to research it. I got my own very strong beliefs about it. But you know, with even with your vegetables and stuff, every vegetable, the different colors tell you that it has different types of properties, different antioxidants. You know what I mean? So you want to eat multiple different things. They all have different nutrients at different amounts in them. So, you know, people who just like kale, I'd say, you know, do kale, do some, you know, red cabbage, get you some colors in there. Because all of those different colors represent different types of antioxidants, which help out with different types of impurities in our body. So
like
the key is having a whole spectrum of different things that we have to cover all of the gaps that we might miss. Even as a bodybuilder, supplementation is important for me personally, because I like to just eat chicken and rice and beef and rice, and that's it. I don't care about vegetables. But I got supplementations, you know, dried greens that I mix in juice. You know what I'm saying? I'm supplementing for what I don't eat. You know what I mean? So, but I'm an extreme case being a bodybuilder. I wouldn't recommend what I do to anybody that's not trying to do this. You know what I mean? But
right.
when it comes down to
So
just your regular diet, you just have to pretty much just understand, like, okay, if it comes out of a box, there's probably zero nutrition in that. You know what I mean? You know, yeah, you might have to use a knife a little bit, but it's worth it in the long run. You know what I mean? To just cut your own vegetables. You know, don't just grab something because it's easy to go. Because the easier it is, the less nutritious it usually is as well.
yeah, that's a good point. And I'm gonna tell you, man, that was only the second question, Trey, and you said a whole lot in that answer. And I'm gonna tell you, as a mom of two autistic individuals, so you know I'm dealing with individuals, and a lot of my listeners are dealing with loved ones who have texture issues around the food. Like for the longest, my son just wanted dairy. He wanted that cheese, and he liked the tortilla from the quesadilla. And he would eat grains in the morning. We would do grits and meat. He liked the meat, and I figured out, man, he likes that rough. He likes that rough texture. So whenever I would try to offer like vegetables and stuff, he wasn't having it. Now, this may go against the grain a little bit, or you may be like, well, yeah, that could make sense. But I actually took him and my daughter to a homeopathic, or you can call them a DAN doctor. That stands for Defeat Autism Now doctor. So essentially, they would do this test, right, to test how what their bodies were lacking in terms of their organs. And then they would put the vitamin supplement on the platform as if the body was consuming what was put on the platform. So if they say, oh, well, the stomach is not doing well, let's try this probiotic, or let's try this digestive enzyme, and we're going to give them 2 capsules twice a day. And they're holding on to a device that's connected to the computer. The computer says, okay, that's better. And then it's like, well, let me give them 3 tablets twice a day. And it's like, oh yeah, that's where he needs to be. And the gut started getting healthier. So we started like the vitamin supplementation first. And then when we did that, it's like his system was more, accepting of trying new things. So when I put he wasn't as adverse to the texture of foods anymore once we got a healthier gut, even once we got healthier adenoids or healthier lungs. So I definitely know for a fact that what you feed the body, even with vitamins and supplements, is very healing to the organs, and it kind of opens you up to try different foods. Does that make sense to you?
No, absolutely. It absolutely makes sense. Um, like when we're deficient, we're not working on full power. You know what I mean? And a lot of times, like I said, those foods that we eat that are so readily available, fast foods, chain restaurants, you know what I mean? The TV dinner things, just the stuff that we tend to do because we're busy and we need quick food is just not nutritious. So we've lived years not even understanding what our body is supposed to feel like when it actually feels good. So just changing your diet to something positive. I tell everybody this just to let them know because they think they're allergic to stuff. But if you're deficient in something and you give your body a lot of it right away, it will cause some type of discomfort. Just for the simple fact that our bodies take time to recognize, our bodies treat everything like something bad until it recognizes it. You know what I mean? So we have reactions, we have different symptoms, and it's not necessarily allergies, it's not necessarily any of that. It literally could be your body's immune system trying to disperse whatever you just consumed because it needed it so bad. If you're not used to it, it feels different. It doesn't feel good. So a lot of things, that's one thing that's really important with the supplementation is understanding like our bodies will adjust fast, but it doesn't always feel the best in the beginning until that energy starts to come back. When all of your nervous system is actually working along with your thoughts and you're able to formulate sentences without getting distracted, like food has something to do with all of that. You know what I mean? And when we're dealing with people who with the texture issues and things like that, some people, I have a texture issue myself. You know what I mean? Any soggy type of bread, it'll almost instantly make me just let everything I just ate go. You know what I mean? So I'm one of those. You know what I mean? And texture is difficult, but the good thing about texture is a lot of supplements have textures that can be played with and put in other things to mask
Okay,
or hide.
talk about that.
You
When
know
you
what I
say
mean?
when you say play with and put in other things, because I'm gonna tell you, as a caregiver of children with autism or anybody else in the neurodiverse community, this conversation, even though it's good, when I first started talking about nutrition and really realized the importance and looking at the back of the ingredients, and if it's a laundry list, okay, that's probably not healthy because you
Shorter the
shouldn't have
list,
all
the
this
better
stuff
you are.
in it. The shorter the list, you better you are. But Trey, though, it is overwhelming for a caregiver because nutrition is just one aspect of what we manage. Even if you're
Right.
neurotypical, right? You're managing a career, you're managing a household, but it's like 10 times more elevated when you're caring for somebody in a neurodiverse population. So, what can you tell us in terms of how you can you can implement this without feeling overwhelmed? Because I think when people see somebody coming and they got this book about nutrition, you need to do this, this, and this. And in the back of their mind, we're sitting up and thinking, like, it is so difficult to even get my child to sit down for a meal. Or if they see something that's not a different color, like, what advice do you give to a parent of someone in the neurodiverse community on how they can begin the process to healthy eating and supplementation?
Okay, so to begin the process, you can pretty much trick yourself. Like I said, like playing with the ingredients, because most supplements come in, I guess I would say three basic two forms, honestly, because I was gonna say tablets, powders, liquids, but I mean inside the tablets it's usually a powder. The most effective ones are the powders because the brick ones it's a little more difficult for those to dissolve. So the powders are always the best option, or the liquid is even better than the powders. So what you think about that is now, okay, if they have a favorite drink, you know what I mean? When it's time for their favorite drink, drop a couple of drips of the vitamins in the cup. They won't even notice. You know what I mean? And if it's a powdered supplement, you know, if they eat cereal or something like that, or any like oatmeal, anything where, you know, you can mix it in so that they don't see it. I think that seeing it is even worse than like the actual taking of it a lot of times.
Okay.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of masking it and hiding it from them, and talking to them. You know what I mean? This is I'm not sure about the neurodiverse community, but this is children in general that I just feel parents don't talk to them enough, because if you start to explain these things to a child at a young enough age, that's just what it is as they grow. You know what I mean? And even if they don't like something, you could tell them, "Hey, I know you don't like it, but this is why I need you to take it." And you still can mask it, but let them know, "Hey, I know I didn't give you your pill, but just know you need it, and I'm still giving it to you just in a different way that you like better." That helps them understand, "Oh, so I don't have to take that pill that makes me want to throw up." You know, like, because I don't like to use the word tricking, because when I'm talking about children, I feel like they need to understand like almost anything you're telling them or trying to do to them or for them. You know what I mean? Because that's how they understand and learn what they need to do for themselves eventually. You know what I mean? So I do believe that you know, mixing it in food, mixing it in drinks and stuff like that is the best way to introduce them, but gradually you want to bring the real thing to them, because they're going to get older and they're going to need to know how this stuff works, and they're going to need to understand why. You know what I mean? And I don't care what community they're in. If they understand, they're more likely to continue doing it and making your life easier if they become independent enough to do some of these things themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that. And I would say from the perspective of a neurodiverse, because I feel like if, you can have somebody that's verbal, you can have a person that's nonverbal, but just because They're nonverbal does not mean they do not understand. Like my
Right,
son Bowman is
exactly.
nonverbal, he understands. So I would say to my listeners out there that are caregivers, get in the practice of having a conversation. Don't assume if your child is DD, which is has a developmental disability, that they are not capable of comprehension, because the more you talk about it, maybe using layman's terms, the more likely, they will understand. And one thing about people that have autism is they thrive in environments that use routine and that are consistent. So if you are consistent in providing that drink initially from a certain period of time, and then you start doing a little more, maybe you introduce once a week a vegetable, put a couple of spoonfuls to see how they respond, you will start noticing a difference. And we're not, looking to like win the sprint, or however that saying goes. We're just looking to make some progress. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would say to my caregivers out there. So that was good info.
You
Um,
said routine though. That's the biggest
yes,
thing.
yeah,
I hadn't said that, but that's the biggest thing because it's routine. I mean, when we do something, a lot of us, like me personally, when I wake up, I don't care what it is. It's use the restroom, brush my teeth. I don't want to hear nothing, see nothing, do nothing. That's my morning thing. It's automatic. Don't think about it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And when you do things like that, same thing with my supplements when I'm in training. Because there's certain things that I do when I'm training that I don't do when I'm not training. But when I'm training, routine is everything. So when I wake up, I like to train on an empty stomach. So I just wake up, I just take all of my supplements right away. Get it out the way. I don't got to think about it for the rest of the day. Nothing. I just load up everything and just go.
yeah.
So that's another good thing to do. Just get it over with in the morning. You don't got to think about it the rest of the day. You know what I mean? If you have to take things multiple times a day, you may have to. But most supplements these days that aren't like doctor prescribed, they're just nutrients and minerals, vitamins and minerals that our bodies need. It's not really a need to take them multiple times a day. You know what I mean? Because most of the dosages now are more than your daily value anyway if you're getting a good quality vitamin.
Do you
But
is there like a downside may not be the right word, but that's the only thing I can find in this moment at taking supplements? Like, is there, I mean, I know there's a way that the daily value may be too high for you, or you may be taking too much. Like in my case, I had some blood work done, and I think my calcium was elevated. So what my doctor asked me was, are you taking a supplement? You might just want to back off of it. So how do you kind of ensure that you're not taking too much? Or can you?
that's what I'm about to get at. Um, when it comes to vitamins and minerals, the daily value is just what they recommend. It's not a maximum or a minimum. They're just saying that this much is how much a normal person needs to properly function. So having more or less of that, I wouldn't say is good or bad because all of us need different daily values anyway. We all have, different ways of life. We're all have a different level of activity throughout the day. We all have different diets. So that daily value changes from person to person. But the thing about it is, if it's something that our body really needs, I don't think our body's gonna complain about how much we have. The only thing is, I think that'll be capped anyway, because if you got to pay for these things, you won't take too much on purpose anyway. I think your speaker went off.
There we go. My
There we
bad.
go.
That is a very that's a very valid point. You You can spend a lot of money on supplements, but I think you know what, the return on investment of spending the money and
Exactly.
taking those vitamins is far better than not taking them.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Being sick is definitely more expensive than maintaining your health.
so I know in the autism community, and not just autism, right? I mean, even just for the neurotypical person, a lot of times there's an extreme benefit in taking supplements that benefit the cognitive function or just your mood regulation. And I know with my kids, they have a lot of mood deregulation. And I noticed once they started taking supplements that it improved. So can you discuss like specific supplements that you think might benefit cognitive function or mood regulation for the autism community?
Yes, and I would definitely recommend one of my favorites, which is magnesium. I like to call magnesium the forgotten electrolyte because they only talk about sodium and potassium. How often do you hear doctors and stuff talking about magnesium? You know what I mean? Yeah, most people are deficient in magnesium. But one thing about magnesium is it regulates everything. It helps to regulate your blood pressure, everything. And I don't know the scientific term, but I don't I don't care who you are. Everybody I've recommended it to begins to sleep like a baby. And when you sleep better, what happens? You think better, you move better, you make better decisions. You know what I mean? And that one supplement added, and I think is another thing that's controversial. I don't think people should go away from salt. I think people should have a little more salt, just not the type of salt that they put in the cans and not the type of table salt that they sell. They add things to those things, and the things that they add are detrimental to us. It's not the salt.
So when you
And
say
I'm not
not
saying
the
salt
salt,
doesn't have effects. I'm not saying that.
so when you say the salt not in the like can, what kind of salt are you
Well,
talking about?
the iodized, the table salt.
Okay.
Okay. Ooh, this is perfect. I could do this at the gym one day. Remind me and we'll talk about it. I'll do a
Okay.
salt tasting and I'll let y'all see the difference between salts. You have rock salt, you have ocean sea salt. You know what I mean? You have volcanic salt. You have the table salt, which you will see once we do this tasting because we're gonna do it now. How off it tastes versus the natural salts. Oh, you got kosher salt, you know what I
Interesting.
mean? You have Celtic salt.
Interesting.
There's different types of salts. And most of the salts that I named are pure. It's nothing but salt. The table salt has a um I guess it's a chemical. It's not natural, but it's an anti-caking agent. And the whole purpose of this stuff is to keep the salt dry. So it's chemically keeping the salt from gaining moisture because you know when stuff gains moisture, it kind of sticks together a little bit, right? All I'm saying is if it's supposed to keep moisture away and we're consuming it and the inside of our bodies are moist, just think about it. Think about it. I ain't a scientist, but I be thinking sometimes.
You be thinking a little bit. Okay, it's okay. You ain't got to be a scientist to think a little bit.
The whole
That's
purpose of
pretty
that
deep.
stuff is to keep moisture away and we're consuming it.
I'm gonna take you up on that salt
And
tasting.
then
That's
we
what we
wonder
gonna.
why our veins and arteries are drying out.
That's kind of deep. You made me feel a little dumb on that. I haven't even thought that far, Trey.
It's
That's
it,
that's
and it all boils down to the ingredients. It all boils down to the ingredients. If you can't pronounce it, you ain't got no business putting it in your body.
deep. If you can't use phonics and easily pronounce it, then you might need to question that.
It might not be healthy.
So by the time you combine like these great nutrients from your food, eating the colorful food, getting the antioxidants, using a supplement like magnesium, which you're recommending, how does that enhance like your physical fitness goals and the overall health? Because I do know a lot of times in the autism community, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere of the brain, this is not just in autism, probably in um other conditions as well, but I'm speaking from a place of where I know a lot of time the right and the left hemispheres of the brain are out of sync. And so a lot of times if you ask a individual with autism to be able to cross their midline or hold up their left knee and touch it with their right, it looks very cumbersome and it's very difficult to do. Like a lot of people think crossing over to the midline like this, touching the other leg, that's just natural, but it really and truly isn't if your neurological or your hemispheres of your brain are not functioning well. So once you get those nutrients and those supplements, should we expect improvement? Of course, we got to work at it and do it consistently, but should we expect improvement in physical activity?
Absolutely. Because basically what we're doing is we're stimulating our whole nervous system. You know what I mean? We're giving ourselves more ability to focus. We're giving ourselves a better ability to rest when we should be resting. So when we're sleeping, we should be getting good sleep. You know what I mean? And then, like I said, with our nervous system, part of the first thing we do as trainers when we're working with new people or someone who hasn't worked out ever or in a long time is we don't take them straight to the difficult things because we have to give them what we call a mind muscle connection, which is your central nervous system, your mind working to control your body to do exactly what you need it to do. That's harder for a lot of people, not just neurodiverse. It's difficult. A lot, you know how many people can't touch the tip of their nose with their eyes closed? It's, and we telling people to do it with a fast pace and with weight. But the nutrition helps that. The nutrition allows your body to actually move a little more properly because we are electric beings. Once we have everything we need in us, like I said, the whole purpose of good nutrition is so that we can operate properly. You know, we give ourselves what we need, we can do what we need to do physically. And then as far as just the being able to do it and the being able to focus enough to say, all right, hey, I know it's going to be difficult, but I need to put my arm over here. And being able to actually focus enough to do it and not be too distracted to keep your eyes on your hand or whatever process the individual needs to go through to accomplish those things. Just having proper nutrition is going to make that process easier alone. And then repetition, of course, makes everything easier.
That's good. That's awesome. I had a question on the tip of my tongue and it just escaped me. But I guess as we get ready to close the talk, like what last couple of takeaways would you want to share with the audience around supplementation or physical fitness or even just food in general?
Okay, so my main thing to take away about food is to remember that food really can heal you or kill you. You can use it as medicine or you can use it to harm somebody, literally. You know what I mean? And when it comes to ourselves, and especially a lot of us with children, our children, we really got to consider this and take it seriously. You don't have to go overboard and buy every supplement you see. You don't have to shove everything down your kid's throat, but you do have to make yourself more aware of the things that could harm and the things that could help. And understand that moderation is very important with those things. I tell people don't just take things away. Pay attention to what you're putting in as well. Because sometimes the things you put in will make you not want the other things. When I quit eating fast food, I went to McDonald's one time just because I was working and I needed something to eat, and I took a bite and got nauseous. So once you start to get what you need and your body starts to recognize, oh, this is better than that. Just like you were uncomfortable getting used to this healthy stuff, go back and have you ever seen somebody who quit eating pork 15 years ago accidentally take a bite of pork? You would think they about to die. It's the same way with
Said, don't
everything
let me
else.
tell you about that bologna sandwich. I used to eat bologna and then cheese and burn the edges when I was a little girl. Come in after ride my
Can't
bike,
do that
eat,
no
and
more,
go
huh?
back out. Then 15 to 20 years, something, I was like, man, it started, that nostalgia. I really want that bologna sandwich. It used to be so good. It would be drenched in butter. Man, when I say I think I threw up in 15 minutes after eating it, my body just rejected it.
And
So, I
then
mean,
that's the
that goes
thing.
to show when your body is used to eating something, it's possible for your body to change its appetite for things. So, for
Exactly.
those that are out there saying, well, I just gotta
I
have,
don't
I
like
gotta
that.
have this and I gotta have that. I can't change. You can.
And
You
do it
definitely
gradually.
can.
The hardest part is when people just try to do things abruptly or cold turkey, as they say. Like I said, you don't have to quit everything you're doing that's bad. You have to learn how to control yourself, and you have to learn how to start putting good things in. Because another thing too is if you start putting good things in, you're leaving less room for other things. So just make the transition. Slide something good in here. Well, you're not hungry no more, so you don't need that bag of chips. You see what I mean? Just small little changes here like that. And eventually you're gonna see some results and you're gonna go to the next step. And that's with everything. And I believe nutrition is the basis for all of that. So eat real
For
food.
for my
Eat
listeners
real
out
food.
there, this isn't just for our loved ones that have conditions. As a caregiver, in order to like manage the type of schedules and stuff that we do, you gotta eat. You gotta eat healthy too
You
and
have
get
to
those
be healthy
vitamins and
too to take. You
supplements.
got to
Like
be healthy to take care of somebody else.
got to. So a lot of times, I think a lot of caregivers say, "Well, I'm gonna implement this for my child, but I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing." And it will work so much better for you health wise, as well as it's gonna work much better for your pocket if
I know we're trying
everybody
to
can
end.
just.
I know we're
Yeah, go
trying to end,
ahead.
but you just said something very important.
Okay. Shoot.
I don't care what condition your child has or a child has. If they love you, they look up to you, they care about you, they think highly of you, they want to do what you're doing. So set the example.
Yeah,
Telling them to do one thing and then you doing another thing and them seeing that, they're just going to do it when you're not looking.
that's real talk.
But if they see you doing something, I'm going to be like my daddy. When I grow up, he going to do everything he sees you do. You know what I
That's
mean?
real
Keep that
talk.
in
Yeah,
mind.
yeah, that's real talk. And the question that I thought of, and I will close with this, is you mentioned, you got to do your research. For people where this is not their expertise in their space, like how do you, this may seem like a silly question, but how do you go about researching it? When you go on Google and you type in something, what am I typing in to really get a better understanding about nutrients and or how supplementation really works?
Okay, the first thing I would recommend is going into Google and typing in what it is that you're looking to make better. And so say um I'm lacking energy after 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So you type up there and say, what supplements could help me with that? And it's going to give you a whole bunch of stuff, natural things. You're probably going to get some drugs up there that'll help too, because the drugs pop up anywhere you got health questions. They pop up quick. So the first thing you're doing is you're not looking at pharmaceuticals and you're not looking at big companies and you're not looking at anything that has commercials, because all of those things are just trying to sell to you. So you're just looking for a list of natural things and you're going to see a bunch of plants, herbs, roots, things like that. All of those come in a bottle. Okay. So once you see that list, you take a look at the things that you're actually familiar with things that you may have already um, had, or things that you know somebody else takes. And then you just want to research that one thing and say, okay, this is what it does. This is what it's for. If you into reading studies, look at some studies. You know what I mean? They're really quick reads usually. And then you say, okay, how do I use it? And you see, okay, this is how I can purchase it. Or is it, wow, can I find it somewhere myself? Which would be lovely if everybody could do that. But so then now you know, okay, so this helps with this. This is all of the things that it helps with, even more so than what I was actually looking for. And then this is how I can get it. Tablets, is it a liquid? You know what I'm saying? Something like that. And then you decide which is going to work best for you. And so a lot of things work for a lot of different things. You know what I mean? So like a lot of people, they're like, oh, take this for this, take this for this, take this for this, take this for this. Just read a little bit, because this might do the same thing as these as well. You only need to take this. You know? A lot of people hear one thing and just run with it. So I always say, like, even if it's something you've been taking, just look it up a little bit. Just see what else it does, because a lot of times we're taking things that's helping more than we really realize it when it comes to these natural remedy type things. If our
Yeah, that's
bodies have
good.
receptors for it, that means it's doing something positive for us.
See, not knowledge is power, right? We can't learn by just coming to these podcasts and getting information. It's a good start. It's a good form of getting information, but just reading more just makes you a sponge for change, really. So I definitely encourage my listeners to read, continue coming to the Real Autism Podcast, where we talk about relevant, effective, actionable living strategies and solutions. And Trey, as we wrap up, if somebody wanted to connect with you to learn more, what would be the best way to connect with you?
The best way to connect with me is on Instagram at the THE_FIT_exception. EXCEPTION.
The
And then
fit.
I'm not really social. I'm not really on doing too much on there. I'm working on it. But yeah, you can contact me there. I do be there.
They'll find you. They'll find you. So I appreciate you joining me this evening and sharing some great information. This was a lot of good stuff. And I mean, I feel like there's a lot more we can go into. So I'm hoping you'll be willing to come back to do a couple of more podcasts. Maybe we can consider doing a series at some point. But
You
thanks,
said
Trey, for
something else I
going.
wanted to talk about, but I know we got to end. So I definitely think we should do this again.
All right, definitely. Well, you make sure you write down what else you want to talk about, and we'll be back, y'all, to give y'all some more information. So until next time, have a good one.
Have a good night.